Hello everybody, it's time for another question and answer session. I'm going to combine the study group question and answer and the Pianimals Institute question and answer week 7 because I think both, I've got one set of questions from one and one from the other, and I think it's a nice cross-fertilization. Everybody's going to be interested in both of these sets of questions. So first up, we've got Joyce from the Pianimals Institute, and first she asks, in Ramon's lesson you're suggesting a perceptual game as a practice strategy for large leaps, a neurological technique. Do you have other perceptual games, neurological techniques, brain-based strategies for use in practice? Could you describe one or more of them? Well, of course, that's a huge question. I can't possibly even scratch the surface, but I will give you one example. So you trick the mind in some way. In Ramon's case, we played a chord and we saw our fingers on another chord, and so you would expect, if you see your fingers here, you would hear this sound, but this other sound is still in your ear. So it's like, what? And then you hear you want to play this one, and you see your fingers on this. So it's really strange. But of course, overtly and expressly making that trick causes the neuromotor system, causes the muscles and the nerves and everything to create a whole new style of movement. So I'll give you one more. And it's a classic one. I don't know if we've done this or not, but it's when people say that in arpeggios the problem is always going over the thumb. Oh, how do I go over to the thumb? And they're always trying to put the hand around here. And to my mind, that's not even the real problem, because often, or most often, when I ask somebody, would you just play an arpeggio but don't do any crossing overs, don't do any position shifts, just do these three. Did you hear that? It was very even. So most of the time people can't do it. And most of the time they're falling on the thumb, which is why they can't do it. So we do all sorts of things. If you look and play the piano with your whole self, there's a couple of chapters on this where we go into great detail as to all the ways you can eventually come to play that little triplet figure evenly. But not with finger isolation. No. That was bad. Now my second finger is playing too loud. What the hell? Maybe because I'm sitting very low and I'm not quite used to it today. So the trick your mind thing is that now you're going to do a position shift, but you're not going to plan it. So I'm not going to shift position. I'm not. Oh my God. And you discover that when you don't plan to do the position shifts, then you don't do all the bull roar wrong movements that you used to do in order to affect the position shift, and therefore you just go to the new position. So you practice. Another way of practicing it slowly, and then so you see, when you go at speed, you may actually see a tiny bit of this over movement, but what is happening is that the thumb plays so well and stands the hand so... Wait a minute, look what happened. My thumb stood the hand up so well that it looks like I'm putting my finger over. I'm not putting my finger over. I'm just standing up. But oh, there, the finger's already gone. I stood up, oh, my finger's already gone to the next position. So when you practice this, and you get them really even, now your thumb is working properly. And if the thumb continues to work properly, so why do I say trick the mind? Because if you think you're going to go over, you'll start with all your wrong movements with the thumb again. So you say, no, I'm not going to, I'm staying here, I'm not going. Always do that. I'm not going, and then I'm not going, and then you go. And so your mind didn't get a chance to do all its bull roar, and therefore you just did a position shift. And so that's another way of tricking the mind. There are many others, but it'd be interesting in the index of Play the Piano with Your Whole Self to actually put that as a category. Which would make for even more work, but might make for a better book. So thank you, Joyce, for that really interesting question. Your second question is, in the early weeks of the Institute, you suggested we become aware of the sensorial experience associated with the different exercises. And in the teacher's manual, you write, in sensorial learning, think less about external form, more about internal function. Sense the idea behind an exercise, which muscles are stimulated, which new bone alignments arise. When I first heard you use the term sensorial, I went to thinking about the basic human senses, especially the tactile and kinesthetic senses. Yes, that's exactly what I mean. But she's not finished yet. Yet, as I observed your guidance of our efforts to perform a specific pianos exercise, I realized you seem to be dependent heavily on visual information, because I'm watching the videos and the sound is turned off. At times during a lesson, it seems as if your comments are guided by a response to some aspect of the sound. The bottom line is that I'm really confused by what you mean by the term sensorial. Okay, this is fantastic. I mean exactly what you first thought I meant. Yes, it means sensorial, it means the kinesthetic and the proprioceptive and all the actual sensations of doing a movement. That's exactly what I mean. So why am I so dependent on the visual as a teacher or on the auditory? A Feldenkrais practitioner has to be dependent on the visual as well. We'll see somebody come in and then their shoulders up, and then of course we know that, oh well, probably their right hip joint is a little bit tense, and so if I work that hip joint, then that shoulder is going to come down. Maybe there's something in the rib cage, and so on and so forth. So we're using visual cues to access the sensory universe, and that's what's going on when I watch you and I see someone's wrist like that. I know what that feels like inside. I mean, now I'm demonstrating it so I can feel. It doesn't feel good. It feels so much better. So visually, if I see that on screen, I will almost like feel that discomfort in myself as I'm watching, and somewhere inside me, oh, please, please, please. And then when I see the visual thing, which I know feels really nice, I literally breathe a sigh of relief many times. So you see, it's a question of understanding what visual cues are indicating in terms of the internal sensory experience and the internal state. The same goes for the sound. If I was demonstrating, and like the middle note was too loud, and it was actually overheld, but so that aligned with that sound is a certain visual cue where you see, if you're very observant, that my second metacarpal phalangeal joint is not as expressed as it should be. It should be up here, and my thumb should be more under, and the second should be more over. Yeah? So the sound also gives me an instant sensory cue, and I feel, when I hear that sound, I feel in myself a certain clamping around the middle of my hand, around that second finger. Like, I know something's jamming up there. That's why. So this one's not standing enough to allow this one to walk freely. This one is not standing enough to allow this one to walk freely. So in order to fix that middle note, I have to fix the other two notes. See, by fixing the other notes, I fixed the note which appeared to be the one at fault. So there, sound and the visual and the internal kinesthetic sensory, they're all intertwined. but when you are doing the exercise, your first task is to access this sensorial world. And many times my students get so into that sensorial world they start doing something really nice and it starts sounding better, and I say, did you hear how nice that sounded? And they said, no, I was too like caught up in just experiencing the sensations. I didn't know how it sounded. And that I remember when I was learning all this, I had the same thing happen many, many times. So that's of course all your attention is here because it's so rich and it's so new and it's so unfamiliar. My God! And oh yeah. And how did it sound? Oh, I don't know how it sounded, but you do it a few more times and you start to tune in, and then you look at your hand and you start to tune in and you start to understand. The trouble with the visual is that you can put your hand in that position in a very artificial way, like you just, okay, that's the right hand position. But again, now the sensations don't align because now my sensation is of a overly stiff and held hand arch. I want it to grow organically into that beautiful shape. So I want it to grow into that shape by being always in movement. Everything in movement. The hand growing, deepening the palm in order to grow itself like jellyfish. Well, I sort of got off topic a little bit there. Anyway, I think it's all of a piece. I think that this question of, so yeah, your job is to sense and to enrich the sensory universe. That's why we're here. I'm going to talk about it tomorrow at the beginning of the ATPM. Just, there's no wrong or right way of playing the piano. We don't want to change the way you play the piano. We want you to feel better playing the piano the way you do. So when we bring enriched sensory experience, then the brain tells the muscles to move the bones in a more useful way. So all these awareness through piano movement lessons are designed to create sensory templates which the brain automatically accesses to make you play a scale better, to make you play chords better, to make you play arpeggios better, to make you play melodies more sinuously, to make you have more orchestral sound. We're just creating a big database of sensory templates which you can access when you play. I mean, that's the global meaning of what we're doing in this seminar, and the whole reason why I wrote Pianimals and why I wrote all the other books is to create this sort of sensory grammar which is going to enrich how we do what we do without really having to go to, oh, that's wrong, or oh, that's not really Beethoven style. Like, when you get into the movements that are dictated by the articulations and notes on the page, then you start to get Beethoven style naturally without even knowing a lot about performance practice, because when your movements align to the articulative structures, it flowers all of a piece. I hope this has provided you with an answer, and I also hope that it may have opened up some new questions for further discussion and conversation. Thank you, Joyce. And now a question from a study group member, Christine Olson, which I think will be of interest to the Pianimals Institute people as well. And many of you will soon be study group members because we're almost at the end of our 8-week series. Christine requests for the ATPM for the study group tomorrow something focused on playing from the pelvis, which may well be appropriate. We'll see. But the question is moving to the inside when playing the thumb on a black key. So we've been discussing a lot about how many of the thumb problems arise from not attending to the basic nature of the thumb as an arm thumb. But what does that mean? It means that the thumb, the arm needs to, I'll get this visually so you can see, the arm needs to get further to the inside than you think. Look, The finger, the arm is right behind the finger. The arm is right behind the finger. The arm is right behind the finger. The arm is not right behind the thumb. It's so obvious, look. So in order to get the arm behind the thumb, the same way that it is behind any of these fingers is to get over here. So, but for most, it's like way to the inside. My God, because look, my second knuckle, the second MCP joint, is directly vertically over the thumb metacarpal phalangeal joint, which in the thumb is a moving joint. The finger metacarpal phalangeal joint is the hip joint. The thumb metacarpal phalangeal joint is the knee. Very interesting. Another way of really figuring out how different the thumb is and how its supportive relationship to the fingers is tantamount to, or paramount, I should say, to really, really healthy, easy playing, fluent playing. So we've got, get onto the thumb. Come on, get over that thumb. Get onto the thumb. Get over to the inside. There you are. How do you do that on a black note? Oh my God, it's so precarious, as Christine says. Precarious. Okay, but wait a minute. Look what I just did. I went down to a flat thumb, 45-degree angle across the black key. A nice triangle structure. I've almost made a bird beak. And all of a sudden, it's an arm thumb. You see, the second MCP joint is directly over the thumb MCP joint. You see? And I'm flat. Now you won't stay flat forever. You can't stay flat forever, but you see, I've made an arm thumb. So one way of making the arm thumb is go to the inside, get that second knuckle, even to the inside of the thumb metacarpal phalangeal joint. Another way is just to lie flat and create that triangle. In this scenario, you're right, Christine, I didn't go quite so far to the inside. But I did create an arm thumb where the second metacarpal phalangeal joint is directly behind the radius, and the thumb is as close as it can be to directly behind the radius. The thumb tip, the distal phalange, is directly behind the radius. These two are a little out. They have to be because of structure. But you see, it feels so nice to lie down. Once you've laid down on that black key, you can actually get back up on it and teeter, and you'll find that it now feels less precarious than it did before. Somehow, again, it's a kinesthetic image. The image, I'm lying down in that black key. I'm lying right down in it. It's my proximal phalange on the black key. I'm at a 45 or 60-degree angle. And then when I come up, somehow that image, that experience, the sensory experience of security, it somehow stays, and you find a way to stand on that black key. And even though you're now on the thumb tip and you're to the inside, you're not so precarious. Because if I just go to the inside, I've actually gone past my sweet spot. And I've been telling you to go to the inside because nobody goes to the inside enough. So come on, I keep pushing you over to the other side. But maybe now it's time that it was said that I'm pushing you to the other side so that you can find the middle. So if you lie the flat thumb down on a black key, you instantly find that sweet spot, that middle, where you're not too much to the inside, but you're enough to the inside. Translate that to a white key, and you see, I'm not quite as far to the inside as I have been pushing you guys of late, but there's the sweet spot. And the sweet spot, the second MCP joint, directly over. You could take a ruler and measure it. Okay? And that makes for a special kind of work in these muscles here. Not only the thenar, but also the first dorsal interosseous. It's both of them. It's not just the thenars. Yeah? So thank you, Chris, for a very, very interesting question. And we'll see what we can do about the pelvis ATPM tomorrow. I have something else in mind, but I could probably work that into it as well. So, that's it for the question and answers for this week, week 7 of Pianimals 2, spring 2021. And we're looking forward to some great sessions tomorrow.